Welcome one, welcome all to episode 234 of the Xbox Expansion Pass, recorded on July 13th, 2024. I am your co-host, Captain Logan, messing things up as always, but I am not alone this week. Luke is gone, and I am joined today by JampackSam and Kevin, the Muffin Mon, both from Save Game Media, from joining me today to help kind of fill in the shoes of what normally would be a Luke run show. I have already messed things up. I have already gone in and ended the stream because we were just chatting beforehand, and I thought, oh, it'll just it's just like OBS, you just had to end stream and then restart stream. No, you have to remake the entire thing. So apologies to Luke, apologies to everyone that was hanging out in chat. It was a nice short stream. But I'm glad that I'm joined today because I listened to your guys' episode, and I know that you guys had some really good points about some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, as far as like Call of Duty potentially coming onto Game Pass, as far as the whole change with Game Pass and the pricing. Lots to talk about this week that I think a lot of people are kind of upset that Microsoft probably just doesn't have good marketing on any of this. So before we get into any of that, I wanted to check in. How has your guys' week been? Sam, have you had a pretty good week so far?
Yeah, it's been a good week. I obviously have been kind of pulling a Mr. Badbit and taking a hiatus from social media over the last few months. I check in, I do my quick scroll to make sure that there's no craziness going on, and then I kind of dip. And so because of that, I feel like I'm kind of always feeling good now. So I recommend people doing that. But yeah, it's been a good week. We had a good show on Thursday, and now I had the opportunity to be here on XCP. So that's always super exciting. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. Definitely know how you feel about the whole breaking away from social media for a bit. Kev, how about you, man? How has your week been? Anything interesting going on besides game news?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the haircut before on the previous live thing, but no, I've had a pretty good week. I finished maybe one of my most anticipated games of the year. Took me a little over a week, so I'm sure we can talk about that when we get to what we're playing later. But
definitely,
yeah, it's been good. It's the second heat wave here in New York. I don't know where you guys are, but we're in the 90s again, dying.
90s.
Yeah.
Oh God, please let me have 90s. It's been in the hundreds for like 2 weeks.
It's just stay inside weather, no, thank you.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is really growing up, I always really enjoyed the peak of summer because I was like, well, I'm going to stay inside where it's a comfortable 68 and I'm going to play PlayStation 2 all day. And so I just have really good nostalgic memories of mid-July, late August. I love that period of time.
Yeah, no, it's been a good week. I had a board game night last night with some friends, and we played a Chameleon. It's basically like Among Us or like Werewolf.
Cool.
And I learned that all of them are really bad at lying, and I am not.
I love those because I don't like to lie in life. That's not like a thing that I'm uncomfortable with, but I'm actually really good at it. And I have enough of a stoic demeanor that most of the time I can say a blatant lie deadpan and people will just take that as fact. So social deception games are like my jam. But outside of that, it is the most uncomfortable thing for me to have to sit there with and try and wrestle. So I would love to get a chance. If there's ever an opportunity where we all get to meet up, I would love to play one of those games and just see how you and I manage on one of those.
That would be awesome.
I like to throw chaos into the mix, even when I'm not the bad person, just kind of get some sus on me,
That's a great way to do it. Well, we always start off the show with words of kindness, and I'll give you guys a couple opportunities to think about if you've got anyone and you want to shout out this week that kind of brought joy to your gaming week. For me, it would definitely be CJ from the Player One Podcast Super PAC. He reached out to me, gosh, I guess it was a couple days ago at this point, asking if I wanted to jump in for some Concord. And I was like, okay, I wanted to check out that game, but I didn't know that there was a beta going on because I too have been disconnecting from social media. So when he reached out to me and he's like, hey, do you want a PS5 or a Steam code? I was like, I'll take a Steam code. Heck yeah. So beta is going on this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to jump in with him and see how it is. Have you gents had an opportunity to jump into that, or any interest at all?
I have not yet. No, I have interest in it, but I was looking into it. It's closed right now for like everybody but PlayStation Plus people, or can anybody dive in? I know that I saw some conversation around it.
Yeah, I think they opened it up to everyone. I saw a couple tweets about how they're like, hey, we're just going to open it up and try and get more people in. I was like, that's awesome.
Oh.
That's a way to go.
I know yesterday was just PS Plus, and then I thought it was pre-orders on PC. I don't know if they've opened it to everyone on PC. It'd be sweet if they did, but if I'm sure there are people out there with pre-order codes, all right? So I mean, if you want something, but I've actually I played it yesterday.
Oh, cool.
What'd you think?
And yeah, I played about an hour with Sam Heaney over there at our No Limits podcast, and I gotta say, guys, pretty surprising. I liked it way more than I expected. It is a much slower paced game than what I think people are expecting. A lot of the characters move really slow, and even the fast ones still feel slow. I say the gunplay is pretty smooth. You can tell this was made by ex-Destiny devs.
Yeah.
But it's just like the one, they have like 2 game modes right now, I think, and the one is basically kill confirm. Like the main mode that they're pushing is kill confirm, essentially from the Call of Duty. You kill someone, get their tag, stop other people. But like each character is unique. They have 2 special moves. Like I was really digging I forget her name, but she looks like a warlock from Destiny. She can shoot fire and make like a firewall, and then she can blind people with her other move. So like I would throw down my firewall, people would be charging at me, and then I'd blind them so they're burning to death, and then I just get to shoot them with my gun. We only lost once in the hour plus we were playing. I blamed that on PlayStation players not really, being accustomed to these type of games, all right? Once the good players show up, but
it's already started.
Yeah. No, but it was surprising. It was a much better time, and there were some things like the more you level up, you unlock variants of each character, which will change their special abilities, which I thought was really cool. It's tied to your overall level instead of character level, which I thought was weird, but it's not perfect, but it's definitely way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. It's one that I'm kind of in the Helldivers 2 camp with, where I don't have a PlayStation 5. I have never owned one this generation. And so being able to dive in on Steam is much more appealing to me, especially since I bought a Steam Deck earlier this year. So if it runs well on there, even more of a benefit. And I know we have a lot of ROG Ally people out there and Legion Go. But I think the difficulty for me with Concord is that when you first see it, it feels like it's a generic conglomeration of like every other big kind of Destiny like that's come out over the course of the past 5 years. And cool to hear that it's not just that. So I think that it might defy some expectations, at least for me, from what I've been hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was looking at it, and I found out that one of the past Blizzard social media people that I know from Heroes of the Storm is now working on that. And I was really surprised because they are fantastic social media. They really know how to garner trust and really breed a community of good content creators for like Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch. So when I saw that she was working over there, I was like, this game must be pretty good, because she could do just about whatever she wants. And after getting laid off at Blizzard, it was like, wasn't sure where she was going to go. So seeing that she's now working on this, I'm like, they have a good opportunity to really capitalize on this being like a very unique thing. And having ex-Destiny devs, like you mentioned, Kev, has there's a lot of pedigree there for that gunplay that I think a lot of people would really get into. And knowing how some of the devs were with Destiny and some of the Blizzard devs that are now working on it, the little vignettes that they keep talking about are going to be coming out and stuff. There's a lot that could really be interesting as far as story wise. Everyone loves Overwatch's story. Everyone, all agree that Blizzard makes some of the best cinematics in the industry. So you start taking people from Destiny and Blizzard and you start putting them on their own thing where they don't have to worry about it. And then you add this like level progression that you're talking about, which sounds very familiar to what Overwatch was going to do with their PvE mode. I think Concord may actually have some legs, and I think people are maybe not giving it its moment to actually prove what it can do. I'm hoping to see like what people say after the beta and like what the impressions are and stuff. That aside, I still want to get your guys' words of kindness, because it's important that we always shout out folks who kind of made our week better. So Sam, Kev, did one of you guys have someone ready to go that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I got two people I want to shout out. Todd Oxtra and the Canardian. Man, that's a mouthful. I was on Secret Friends Unite this past week over on co-op mode. They invited me to come hang out with them. We had a good chat about expansion packs and our favorites, and it was just a good time. I had never podcasted with either of them before, and it was a blast to finally meet them, so called. But yeah, good dudes, good show. So yeah, absolutely shout out to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
that's great.
I love Todd and them. They're really good over there. Sam, how about you?
Well, I'll have, I guess, premature words of kindness. I'll be chatting with Todd on Monday, actually, as well. So we're kind of doing the back-to-back bump there. But outside of that, I would give mine to Kyle and Mr. Badbit over at the Trophy Room. I was on a walk and looking for a new podcast to listen to. I'd kind of gone through my entire playlist for the week. And so typically I don't listen to a lot of PlayStation stuff because, again, not really like relevant directly to my gaming habits. But I was like, you know what? We'll bump in. And I really enjoy the little chat and the rapport they have before the show goes live, where they're just kind of like chatting as friends about gaming and playing little games and stuff. And so it really felt friendly, really kind of made one of my days this week a lot better. So shout out to them for the great work they do over there.
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, all things considered, you not buying a PlayStation this year, you're missing out on some really great games that got released.
Yeah, so many minutes of games that I could have played.
So, gents, there was a report that came out, and I know you guys had already talked about this on your show, but I wanted to kind of rehash this a little bit for everyone else. Call of Duty is reported to be coming to Game Pass at the end of the month. They haven't set a date, but it does look as though that's something that's going to be coming out by August at the very latest. And we've already seen some teases on other shows, people talking about there being something coming. Modern Warfare 3, I was playing, I think it was last night with the boys, jumped back in. I've been taking a big hiatus on games just because of social life and all the stuff that I'm going through. But it was good to get back in. We came in third, and I couldn't quite clutch the win on our one Warzone drop that we got to do. But Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 coming to Game Pass just after announcements of the new change up in pricing and stuff, which we'll get into. How are you guys feeling about Call of Duty starting to like get people in? So are there people right now that haven't bought into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 that would be interested in, that might have Game Pass? Is this relevant news? Is this just kind of like a marketing thing? Sam, you're already wanting to join. give me what you got, buddy.
I mean, I'm that player. I haven't bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I didn't buy I think the previous one was Modern Warfare 2. I bought that. I did not go in for Modern Warfare 3, but it's one that I've wanted to play because I know that Luke's really hot on the campaign, even though it was kind of controversial when it came out.
Yeah.
And I like the traditional multiplayer stuff, but typically how it goes is whenever a new Call of Duty comes out, I'll play it for a couple of weeks after launch and then fall off. And so this year I was like, you know what? I'm standing my ground. I'm not going to fall back into the habit. And so I've stood firm up until now. And yeah, I mean, I think this would be great for me as somebody who might not spend thousands of hours with it. But, you know, a couple of weeks of bouncing around on a Call of Duty, sure, I'm down.
That's awesome. Kev, do you let me know what you think. Are you into Call of Duty? Do you want to get into Call of Duty? Would it being on Game Pass actually get you into Call of Duty?
It makes it a lot more enticing. I'll say that. I'm not fully there yet in my the thing is, like, last Call of Duty I played was Call of Duty Ghosts. All right, like the Xbox One launch title in 2013, and I liked Ghost. Okay, but after that, I was like, I think I'm kind of done with Call of Duty. The fact it's coming to Game Pass, they're starting to trickle feed, hopefully, these previous titles into the service, and knowing that the campaign is pretty short, like a few hours, that screams to me like, okay, if there's a lull in my like game, like I have 2 days where I'm like, okay, there's nothing to play. Like I'll just boot that up, maybe go through the campaign, because I don't personally, like, I haven't played one in 10 years. I'm not going to sit there and compare, like, Modern Warfare 2 was better. I'm not going to have many like comparison points. Even if it's not good, it's still just like a mindless romp that I will probably enjoy. I can't see myself jumping into the multiplayer for any extended period of time, especially with like Black Ops 6 coming out. Like if there's a multiplayer one that I'm going to like invest time into, it'd be that one. Like I just wait for the newer one.
Interesting. Okay. So you don't want to warm up at all, really, with like Modern Warfare 3?
Oh, I'm always warm, I know.
He's always ready.
Yeah.
That's
Concord's my warm up.
Oh, fair. Yeah, that's a good point. True. That's interesting. So, because I know, like when Diablo 4 was coming out, I was like, day one, doesn't matter, $100 like collector's pack, whatever. I got it sitting over there on the floor, being very well taken care of by Dust. So I was very invested in Diablo 4. And then they announced that Diablo 4 was going to be coming out onto Game Pass, which was the first Blizzard title after the acquisition to make it to Game Pass. And everyone was just like really, really excited. I'm like, okay, well, but I was planning on playing Diablo 4 from the get-go. So for me, like my perspective is I want to jump in day one because I want to get the best experience I can. And that's kind of, if it's not going to be on Game Pass, then I'm going to have to buy it. And that's just kind of the deal there. So the idea of waiting for Call of Duty to make it to Game Pass to me feels like I'm curious what would be the main draw. And Sam, to your point, you make a great example of how I used to be with Call of Duty, where my friends would rope me in and they would play for the first couple of weeks. They would get it out of their system, and then we would never reach back out to kind of like seeing what's going on. After playing with Luke and Joe and them, it is more of like no, we're going to always be jumping in for a little bit at some point during the week, and the value is definitely there. Silken saying, I wish people would play more diverse games than stop with COD. Yes, I'm an old man shouting at clouds.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation that we kind of have within the gaming industry where there are people like us that are in this like podcast group that we're in and that are always bouncing around to like the newest thing, trying out Lords of the Fallen. I know like I've been playing that. Luke's been playing that. Yeah. Kevin will never play that. But we're always trying out new things. And then there are people that are FIFA, Call of Duty, all of those like mainstream games. And I think that for those people, maybe Call of Duty and Game Pass might not be that big of a deal, specifically talking about Modern Warfare 3, like it now coming in, 9 months after it came out, might not be that big of a value add. But I fully expect this to be at the top of the chart the same way Diablo 4 is on PC, where people that didn't have it in their library are going to be diving in just because now they have it. It's there. And there's probably always been some kind of marginal interest because it is Call of Duty. I mean, even Kevin, like you said it, I might try. I wouldn't be opposed to checking it out. If it's there, I'll try it. I think that's kind of the sentiment that a lot of people that haven't gone in yet probably would have when it pops up in that library.
Yeah, it's like I have Cold War on PS Plus. I claimed that ages ago. And one day I'll eventually get around to playing that campaign, when I feel like downloading 200 gigabytes. But like today's not that day. Knowing it's there is fine. But for me, Call of Duty and these more mainstream, like forever games, we kind of touched on this earlier the week, saying like Fortnite, FIFA, Madden, like those games that people maybe only play like one or two of those, and that's their gaming time throughout the year. I feel like those are different gamers than people in this space, people that do like those diverse types of experiences. Like they're not looking for storytelling, they're not examining like the gameplay, the grab, like they know what they want, and that's just to turn their brains off for a little bit, have some fun, relax after work. They're not looking to invest more in the medium that is gaming, in my opinion.
Yeah. On top of that, though, like if Call of Duty is in Game Pass and Modern Warfare 3 is the way that some people jump in and try for the first time or something, like can that be considered a gateway drug into, hey, the microtransactions are here. Oh, look, they've got the boys skins. You've been watching the boys, haven't you? Oh, they're only like insert however much they cost here. I don't know, $5 to $20, somewhere in that range. And then they say, okay, I've bought this. Cool. Black Ops 6 is going to be there day one. I'm ready to jump in and continue that grind. And so all of a sudden they turn into where it was kind of like Logan's transition from casual Call of Duty player that would check it out occasionally to now I'm playing weekly or a couple of times a month for a couple of hours at a time and really enjoying my time with it.
Mm-hmm. No.
Part of me wonders if having Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in Game Pass will allow it to be something that can get streamed through xCloud. And if that's the case, are we thinking that maybe there's a better opportunity for people to fall back into COD because they don't have to actually pay for it? They don't actually have to download the 300 gigs to their hard drive if they just want to jump in for a little bit. Do we think that maybe this will offer a larger return on the monthly active users for Call of Duty?
I want to say that it would be beneficial because like we know Fortnite has had some success. Like it's free on the cloud. Like you don't need Game Pass. That's like the only game right now you can play cloud without Game Pass. My thing is like we know Ubisoft has the cloud rights for Activision Blizzard games, and we have yet to get them announcing anything. Like Diablo 4, you can't play via the cloud, right? They have yet to implement that. So I just don't see this launching with cloud rights unless Ubisoft has got their stuff together and they're going to make one big announcement. But like, I don't know what's going on with the cloud rights for ABK games.
Yeah. I think it's a huge question mark because I know that I was making a video a couple of weeks ago and Diablo 4 was an example that I was going to throw in of like, oh, well, it's great to be able to pick up and play stuff like, and then you insert a game that would feel good on cloud that is a mainstream game. And you're like, oh, wait, can't really do that, can you? Now you've got like console remote play and stuff like that. In a hypothetical world where they do work that out, number one, Ubisoft makes a ton of money. They already are, but like, you know, they keep that kind of machine churning. And beyond that, yeah, I think that more people would dive in. The question is how many though? Because I know Kevin and I were talking about the cloud, like how many people are looking at that as a Game Pass value add and really saying that's one of the big things that I love having. For me, it's not that. It's a nice accessory, but it's not something that I think about when I'm thinking about Game Pass right now.
That's fair. That's a really good point because I know, at least from my perspective, cloud is really only something that I think about like when I go out to laundromat to do laundry and I'm sitting there for hours, just nothing. And I don't, you know, I either bring my Switch or I bring my Logitech G Cloud. And to be perfectly honest, I have access to more content through my Logitech G Cloud. So it's like, I feel like I would rather bring that. And that's usually when I'll jump into Game Pass and do the cloud streaming and be like, okay, well, you know, Hello Kitty or Little Kitty Big City is something that I've been wanting to play and it works through Game Pass Cloud. So I'm probably going to sit there and play through that. I don't know how I would do on like, you know, random Wi-Fi playing Call of Duty, but you know, if I'm just looking to get in some time and get some experience just to, you know, get through that battle pass a little bit faster, that might be something that's that I would look to. But to your guys' points, Ubisoft has been very mum on whether or not any of these are going to be coming to cloud anytime soon. So at that point, it's like maybe this is the time when Xbox has managed to get Ubisoft's like rights and deals set up, and the announcement of Modern Warfare 3 or hopefully at least a Black Ops 6 will be them kind of announcing like, hey, it's also coming to cloud streaming. Is that a possibility that you guys think we might actually get? Would that be better messaging to kind of coincide with the other news we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial. And I think that the timeline would kind of add up based on Microsoft's recent moves, bringing big games to other platforms, making things generally more accessible. I wouldn't be surprised to see them work with Ubisoft to release Black Ops 6 on GeForce Now, Amazon Luna, Xbox Cloud Gaming, like the full gambit to get as many people as possible playing the game on day one. So you can't have that headline of X number of people playing Call of Duty, most players in history kind of thing. I think making anything exclusive in the cloud space right now is just kind of a trivial pursuit because you need to have as many people getting in on cloud as you can in general, just to become fans of the way they play games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Any follow up you got?
No, I think I mainly agree. Like the cloud for me, I just don't see the like it works well when I've used it. I just don't think most people will give it the time of day. Like that announcement would be cool to see for enthusiasts, but I think
Mm.
most people read that headline and go, I don't really know what that means. Like what's a GeForce Now? What's a Amazon Luna? You know, like the mass markets, I don't think that moves a needle.
Yeah. Yeah. I know at least in my group of friends that are not gamers, Call of Duty specifically is still very much associated with PlayStation, and the idea that you would be playing Call of Duty on anything other than PlayStation is just sacrilege to them. And I'm like, yeah, but it's been multiplayer forever.
I'm going to be
So,
really curious to see, now that the marketing rights with PlayStation have expired, how long it takes to kind of undo that that mental connection to
mm,
PlayStation. Because for me growing up, I couldn't imagine playing Call of Duty. Now I did. Don't get me wrong. I played Call of Duty on PlayStation, but the Xbox 360 jump in, like that whole thing, or whatever the tagline was back in the day, it was so deeply ingrained to me that that was an Xbox 360 game. Like Call of Duty was Xbox. Xbox was Call of Duty pre-acquisition.
yeah.
And then when the PlayStation 4 launched and that marketing deal landed, everything changed. So in 10 years, are we going to be having the exact inverse of the conversation of like, I can't imagine playing Call of Duty on a PlayStation. Why would I ever want to do that? It's just so strange to think about how fast things changed in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, especially ever since the acquisition. I think a lot of people are going to, it will probably take some time. Like to your point, I would not be surprised in, 5 years, people are like, oh yeah, Call of Duty, the Xbox game. It just
Yeah.
happens to be on PlayStation, just like Sea of Thieves or Minecraft or those other titles, but it's a first party game. So it gets all the crossover stuff.
I think that all comes down to how well Xbox's marketing team can push that message. Like, we still haven't seen nearly enough messaging about like Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass. The Black Ops 6 is a call. Like, why are we not screaming this from the rooftops, Xbox? I don't understand your marketing team.
It feels like maybe they have a problem with marketing, and they've shown a good example of that in our next topic. We're going to be talking about Game Pass. Before I do that, I have to shout out the patrons because they are the ones that are supporting this content. They're the ones making it possible for Luke to buy the weird unicorn inner tubes that he needs to have for his pool in his bedroom. Don't ask. I'm not going to get into it, but we would like to honor them by shouting out all of their names during the actual show. So I wanted to do this and just thank everyone. So shout out to our tier 2 and tier 3 patrons. We've got Chris 1H1D, Nicholas Johnson, Ellery Woods Parker III, Rob Frawley II, Tao Zochi, Xbox Skittle, Randall Thor 19, Silkenit, African aka Charles Jones, Game Positive, JampackSam, Matt Valdez, Neo Prime 33, Rick Davis, Red Beast, Xbox Mike 29, the Lord Sir Master James Suddy, Brendan Myers, aka the Winter Gamer, Sony's VP of Marketing Kevin Butler, Clint Coombs, DJ Hero, and Dano12. Thank you all so much to everyone who has been supporting and throwing up the actual channel members down below here. Thank you so much for everyone that's given support or considered giving support, even if it's just a like, subscribe, even if you're just sharing it with some friends or just dropping in to say hi. It's always appreciated. Very much like the news that we got for Game Pass getting some changes. This has been a bit of a mess, in my opinion. They have just absolutely destroyed something that they had good confidence in. Like, we knew what Game Pass is, and this is just completely like confusing the heck out of most people. So I know you guys talked about this on your show. I know I am probably going to flub it up. You guys actually did a really good job kind of covering this. So right off the bat, kind of rehash a little bit about how you feel on the Game Pass changes to not only the actual tiers, but the pricing itself.
Sam, I'm gonna let you go first because you're way more positive about that. I like to start with the positivity.
Yeah, we always joke on the show that I'm always trying to see things in the positive light. And so for me,
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily any more confusing than it was before, which is basically like saying politics isn't convoluted and confusing. Like it was already a disaster, and now it's like a different type of disaster. But overall, I think the transition, the change that has been made here, and we can dig into like the nitty gritty of what that actually is in a minute. But overall, the changes make it more difficult to recommend Game Pass for people that are more casual fans of gaming, and more so something that I would only recommend if you are into variety, if you like to explore, if you like playing a ton of different games. And that's the biggest change, because for the past 5 years, I've had Game Pass since 2019. And it's immediately something where I'm like, oh, you have an Xbox, you need Game Pass. Like, why would you not have it? It's only originally $10 a month, then Ultimate comes around $15 a month, then it's like $16.99 per month. And I'm like, ooh, getting a little, still worth it. And now it's like $20 a month. Well, that's, $240 a year plus tax. That's not cheap for some people. And so if you're only playing an hour or two a week, or even less than that sometimes, depending on what you got going on, you're just not going to get your value out of it like you would have when it was a couple of bucks cheaper. So that's my initial reaction to everything. But so TLDR, still confusing, way more expensive for some people.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good summation of what's going on. I'm not coming off our show, like, and I wasn't overly negative. I don't feel. I feel like I tackled it appropriately, but I've listened to other people's show. I listened to Cast Co-op afterwards, and I've listened to other people talk about it. And I go back to something, I think Aiden said it, where it Game Pass Ultimate is now $20 a month, right? So if Xbox has one game per quarter, which is what they promised, right? And that's a $70 game. Game Pass is now $60 per quarter. And if the big draw for me, which is always, I've said the main point of Game Pass has always been those day one first party titles, you're now looking at $60 a quarter versus $70 for the game if you were just to buy it. And I'm like, okay, you'd still be saving money if that was all you played. And I get that argument. I do. But not every first party is going to be something you want, right? Like Forza Motorsports come out. I checked it out because it's on Game Pass. I never would have bought that game. I only played it for like 2 hours, right, on my lunch breaks. So like I can live without that game. There are going to be more of those games where I'm like, okay, Game Pass isn't really doing it this month for me on the first party front. It's supposed to be that variety service that Sam's talking about, right? And I think that is a good value proposition, but everyone has their limit, and I think $20 might be mine.
Interesting. I remember you were talking a lot about that on your guys' show. So let's give a little bit of context for folks now that we've kind of opened up, and I'll kind of share my feelings on this because I think you bring up an interesting point. There's going to be 4 tiers or 3 technical tiers of Game Pass, plus like the PC Game Pass, which is just kind of its own little thing. There's Core, which we already are familiar with. You're going to get 25 games that are curated. They're going to change over time, but for the most part, you're mostly getting the cloud saves and online multiplayer. You're also going to have the standard edition, which is now the new $15 version. And that is going to stand as kind of the introductory for a lot of people that want to actually get Game Pass to the full catalog. And with that, you'll get all of the games that you would be able to get if you were currently on Ultimate. The only difference is you're not going to be able to get those day one launches. And that to me seems like one of the biggest points of contention. The price, I feel like most people see the value for a lot of Game Pass, but the day one issue is kind of the big thing there. And then you have Game Pass Ultimate, which actually looks like that has the Xbox Cloud Gaming. It does come up with the EA Live. You get the perks. You also get the day one stuff, and you get the full catalog to Game Pass. So those are going to be kind of like, if you want everything that you have now, including like the PC content, Ultimate is going to be the new tier that you must subscribe to. And unfortunately, it is a bit of a hike. It's $2 per tier for each different tier. You're going to be going from, I think it was $17 or $16.99 up to $19.99 now. So I'm not a huge fan of price hikes across anything. It's just a bummer overall when you're constantly like having to readjust your finances to determine where you're going to be spending your money. But Kev, to your point, you brought up a really interesting thing that kind of speaks to Ains's comments about there being like still some value to Game Pass, especially given that there's supposed to be 4 tentpole titles each year for a quarter for first party content. And to your point, games like Forza Motorsport or Redfall are going to leave people wanting. They're not going to have like a new Halo or a new Gears or a new Fable or a new Perfect Dark. And a lot of the times, if this was like in PlayStation world, we would probably be very happy with what, usually comes, because generally most of the first party content that comes from those studios is all the same genre. It's all third person action adventure, story driven games. So with Game Pass going up, you really have to think about what are the games that you actually want to jump into. And a bit of a counterpoint is if you were to say like, well, I'm not going to pay for Game Pass because I want to save the money and I want to just buy the 1 or 2 games that I know I'm going to be playing, you could potentially save some money there by just having the 1 or 2 that you're going to pick up. But I would hate to be the person that is not on Game Pass, was excited for Redfall, bought it, realized that it was not the game that I was hoping it was going to be, and have no recourse except for maybe to trade it back into like a game store. And so jump in.
Oh, well, there's an interesting comment in the chat that I was going to ask you to highlight. I think it's from Bison. Game Pass has never been a discount on first party games. It's all about the third party delayed editions: Jedi Survivor, Mortals of Adium, Lords of the Fallen, Callisto Protocol, AC Valhalla. I recognize that point. And I think this ties back. I recognize that point. I don't personally agree with that, because I look at the standard tier, right? If that is what the value is of Game Pass for you, there's no reason for you to pay Ultimate, right? Because you'll still get the catalog on the standard edition. Like, you can save $5 a month. That's that PS Plus Extra. That's their whole bag over there. Like, you don't get first party games. For me, first party is the main attraction of Game Pass Ultimate. And the fact that now they have Game Pass tiers that don't include day one. They have Game Pass tiers over on PC that are like, you get day one and at a cheaper price. It really devalues the console for me. It almost seems like they're pushing you towards PC. I just wanted to bring that up because I was reading his comment in the chat.
Yeah. I actually have friends who play Sea of Thieves, and they are most of them are predominant because of the competitive nature of Sea of Thieves. A lot of them have built PCs because of and tried to actually play predominantly on PC. And to be perfectly honest, PC at $11.99 a month, given that online is free and that you don't need cloud streaming for that, you're still getting all of the perks that Ultimate would have for $8 less.
Yeah, Kevin and I talked about PC as it is the standout value now. Like, obviously you have Game Pass Core, but it's more so like you need to get online. That's the equivalent of like going to your internet provider and getting the bottom tier that's like 10 megabits per second because you need to send an email. Like, you're getting Core to be present online. And the little library they have is just a benefit. But for PC Game Pass, I think the uphill battle that they've still got to provide like an unreal value for is that a lot of people do not want to play games on the Xbox app. And I know there are complaints out there about the quality of the app and the experience that people have. I'm cool with it. I don't have any problem with it.
It's been good for me. I think we're past that.
But there's a narrative out there that they have to kind of defeat of, I've heard the Xbox app is bad. I don't want to use it. I'd rather buy my games on Steam. And then there's I want to keep my library all on Steam. I mean, we talked about Epic having fought this battle for the past 5 years by trying to give away so many free games that they've basically gone in the hole trying to do it. Not that they're going out of business. Fortnite skins are all over the place, but it's so hard to break people on PC in particular out of that mold. It's almost like the console division of like PlayStation people love PlayStation, Xbox people love Xbox. And so the only way you're going to be able to get people to get on board is by having really, really good games, and you can get them day one in Game Pass, and they're not going to pay $20 a month to do that on PC. They'd rather just buy the games. So for $12 a month, it becomes more enticing to say, oh, I really want to play Gears of War E-Day. I could buy it on Steam, or $12 a month, I could play it on Game Pass. Like, that's one of those value adds that I think makes that such a good offer.
One of the interesting things that I've noticed about Game Pass for PC versus console, and this was kind of like my foray into the Xbox One generation back in 2018 when I was like just getting back into gaming, and I hadn't really gotten a chance to understand the landscape that is like PS4, Switch and Xbox One. So I signed up predominantly for PC Game Pass because I was like, okay, well, I only own a PC, so I'll go for those. And the thing that actually pushed me over to Game Pass for console, for Ultimate, for console and PC was one, Cyberpunk 2077 was launching their limited edition console, which is like literally right over here hiding. And the fact that there were so many games that I didn't realize aren't available on PC that are available on console. That was the thing that got me to switch over, because I wanted to go back and play some of the Banjo games. I wanted to go back and play some of the Perfect Dark games. I wanted to go back and play Halo 5 or 4. I can't remember which one is the one that's
5.
not on 5. Yeah, 5's not on PC. It's like there are some games that you would think should be on PC, but actually aren't. So I kind of recognize, like, yes, PC Game Pass does offer the full library of what's available for PC, but it doesn't have so for example, First Descendant. I can't play that on Xbox PC app. Like, I went to go install it, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, I've been playing it in the living room on the TV, and it's been good, but I was like, I kind of want to jump into this because it feels like a Destiny like game, and I want to have that like mouse keyboard experience. So I went to go launch it into Xbox on Game Pass, and it's not on PC, and I'm like, that's weird. I thought it would be. I can't find it. So I have no opportunity to jump onto PC. So for me, I feel like I'm going to probably just have to make that choice between standard and ultimate. My financial situation has drastically shifted over the last 3 months. So I have to try and now start looking at like the pricing. Do I care about day ones? For me, less so. Why? Because I'm a content creator. Luke has great connections with a lot of the publishers and the marketing teams to be able to help get review codes for a lot of the games that I'm interested in jumping into. And that puts me in a point of privilege where having stuff launched day one on Game Pass is less impactful, because I'm usually getting stuff a little bit earlier than that just to try out. But that is a really hard thing. And they've been very quiet about when the day one games would be coming to standard. So I wanted to get some thoughts on that from you guys. When do you think is the appropriate time for them to bring these games that would normally launch day one for Ultimate to come to standard?
Yeah, so they Jez Corden says that Xbox told him 6 to 12 months, but it could be a case by case basis. And even on their own support page, it says may come to standard. So there could be exceptions where, hey, this game is permanently on Ultimate. Like, this could be a first party title, and you may never see it drop to the standard tier. And for me, that kind of goes against the whole nature of what Game Pass was originally envisioned as. Like, when Phil Spencer got on stage and was like, first party into Game Pass, their whole marketing beats every showcase. Play it day one with Game Pass. Play it day one with Game Pass. Now it's play it day one with Game Pass Ultimate. And I know they've said like standard doesn't get day ones. We know that now. $15, which was the original price of Ultimate. But is that just day one first party, or is that day one across the board? Like, if there's an indie game, for example, like Animal Well launched into PS Plus, right? Are we not going to see those day one third party indie titles in standard? Are we gonna have to wait for those to come as well? I'd like some clarification on like, is it just first party? Is it every day one launch?
Yeah. That would be nice to get some clarity around that, because I know like Flintlock is one that's coming up this week, I believe. That's like one that I'll have pre-installed. Excuse me. But stuff like that, I value just as much as I value something like Call of Duty coming, because of my personal gaming habits. Like, I enjoy those third-party day one drops, so I would want to learn more about that. It would just be great, as per usual, get some clarity, own the situation, tell me what your plan is. And my mind goes to like how you said, Kevin, that not everything is guaranteed to come to the standard version. I'm wondering if all of this spawned out of those Call of Duty conversations that we all heard during February, March time, a couple of months ago during the spring, around is Call of Duty coming to Game Pass? Should we put it in? Should we not? Maybe this was the caveat of, hey, yeah, it's going to be an ultimate, but we're going to introduce this new tier standard. It's going to keep getting some Game Pass games at a delay. It's not getting Call of Duty, though, because those people still need to go buy it for us to get the bottom line where it needs to be. And if that's the case, boy, that's going to suck for those people. And it's just not a great way to create an understanding around the value the Game Pass brings, because to everybody's point here, how do I know what I'm getting whenever I have a specific set of standard games that I'm kind of hoping come eventually? Like you say, I'm getting day one games, but I don't know when or which ones. It's very weird.
Yeah. I can see a world where they launch Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and they say, hey, if you want to play this, you can get day one Game Pass. And you go into it and it says your Game Pass is not the appropriate tier for this. Would you like to upgrade to the appropriate tier to be able to get access day one? And that's and they've already, like, this went live on the 10th. They're already not offering Game Pass Ultimate, what we have for new customers. And I'm wondering, like, what happens in the lapse? Like, because I've already got a couple years stacked up. Like, I think I'm good to like 2025, 2026 as far as Game Pass goes. I usually buy heavy whenever there's like a discount and I can get 10% or 15% off. So I usually stack that stuff as much as possible. They're also taking away that you're not able to stack more than a year's worth of Game Pass on your account anymore. And they've really just tried to ensure that they're getting people converted over to these new tiers, and it's not like people that have been on the same grandfathered plan over at Verizon for the last 15 years on their ultimate, unlimited phone line and stuff like that. I wanted to ask you guys a question that came up while Kev was talking about what may or may not come to Game Pass day one. Do you think that part of this is because there has been no opposition to the game streaming subscription services from PlayStation? That PlayStation has refused to really try and bite into that day one marketing with their content. And because of that, Xbox now has the leeway to be able to say, okay, well, Sony's not really competing on this, so we have a little more leeway to decide what's day one and what's not, and start changing up our tiers based on that.
I mean, it very well could be a competitor analysis element thrown in there. I think that they're always going to be doing that. I still think that by and large, though, Xbox and PlayStation are kind of existing in echo chambers doing their own things. Like, obviously, PlayStation's following the Xbox trends over the past few years of being more PC focused and trying to build out the PC app so it's got more of a robust user experience. But I think that right now, Xbox is probably looking at the bottom line, trying to figure out how to make this thing work better for them, because Game Pass has been such a big bet on saying, hey, you're not going to have to buy Starfield or Forza Motorsport or Forza Horizon 5 or Halo Infinite or any of these big hitters, and any big hitters that are coming. And then now they're 5 years into this experiment or however long it's been, and they're saying, oh, we're not making as much money as we probably would have been had we done otherwise. So I think it's more so just the looking inward than looking outward, but I'm sure that the competitor stuff plays an element in it.
Yeah, I look at this and I don't think this is Xbox being like, oh, well, we can get away with this. I look at it more as like, when PlayStation was arguing with the FTC, and they said, from my understanding, Game Pass is losing money, and like putting first party games into the service isn't sustainable. If anything, I look at this price increase and think they might have been right. Like maybe they need the $20 to make this work. Maybe they need more than $20. Like we've gone last July, we saw the price increase. This July, we saw the price increase. Do we get next July and it's now $23, $25? Like at what point do we hit where it is now sustainable, but also like they have to balance losing subscribers, gaining subscribers? It's a very complicated math equation that they're walking here to make this subscription work, which is why I think they introduced the standard tier where they're like, let's just make a tier that is what PlayStation is doing. Because while PS Plus is stagnant, we know that like it hasn't grown. Most people are in the extra or premium tier, I believe is what PlayStation has said. Like those tiers seem to be offering value that their consumer base wants. So maybe day one first party, like again, it sounded like I'm contradicting myself, but there might be more consumers out there like Bison in the chat who think the value of the subscription service is those third party, that back catalog. So let's give the standard tier a shot and see, does that boost our Game Pass numbers?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I'm kind of curious if in Bison's example, if their games are predominantly games as a service, so they always have something that they're playing on a regular basis, and they're just waiting for those third party games that they had interest in that they knew that they wouldn't buy falling into Game Pass at a later date because it's not necessarily as big of a priority because they've already got their like games as a service games that they're kind of falling into. Also, I wanted to shout out real quick, Chris 1H1D, Bobby Kotick screwing us again for his golden yacht. It's ridiculous. I can't believe that he still has his tentacles somehow hooked into Microsoft, even after getting ousted by Phil Spencer.
Crazy stuff. I think that looking at the entire, new offering that they've got, the big thing that's missing for me is just, again, more clarity. I was thinking about EA Play and how I find a lot of value in that section of Game Pass Ultimate, but things like Battlefield 2042, like, that's going to be coming at some point. Jedi Survivor, that was going to be coming at some point. All of these games are dependably coming to EA Play, and if you don't want to wait, you can buy them on day one. I bought Dead Space Remake. I bought Battlefield 2042. I bought name an EA game here because I wanted to play those games at launch. And so as long as there's this mutual trust and understanding of, hi, you can get this later or you can get it now, I think that there's like this respect element that comes into it where the lack of communication from Xbox around what's going on with those things is almost for me a little bit disrespectful of like, at least show me the table, like show me where the pieces lie and let me make my move accordingly. Don't be like, it'll come at some point. It'll be a nice little surprise on the Xbox Wire. I don't want that. Let me know when I should be able to expect this stuff so I can bake it into my planning, because we all have to figure out how to make this stuff work financially.
Yeah, I definitely wonder how this is all going to end up playing out for a lot of folks. I still haven't decided how I'm going to actually approach this. And thankfully, I still have like a couple of years worth of Game Pass locked in, so I don't have to think about it. But it's going to be interesting to see what changes are done in the coming year. I think Spam 591 makes an interesting point here that, gotta say, worried that the 13-month stacking limit indicates another price increase could be coming in the not too distant future to prevent value stacking too far in advance. The last thing that I think I could really touch on conversation wise with this is with the earlier news of so many studios getting shuttered and closed this year, and just even all of last year. We're still seeing layoffs. We're still seeing studios having to make cuts to try and compensate for the costs of the games that they're making, not selling well enough. With Game Pass going up in price, do we think that this is just going to bolster the coffers of the CEOs and the corporates, C-level executives in the industry? Or do you think that this will actually try to do some good to keep studios from having to get closed.
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a byproduct of the CEO pay bump. Like Yves Guillemot got one. I saw a report from, I think it was Steve Totillo yesterday during his newsletter. But that's always going to be a thing. I think at the same time, you will see more going back to the bottom line of how much money did this game actually make. And that was one of the points that I made on our show earlier this week, where I haven't been buying games this generation. Like, it's me, I'm the problem. That's just the truth, where Starfield didn't buy it. Forza Horizon 5 didn't buy it. I've got literal weeks into Halo Infinite. I didn't buy anything. Now, I bought battle passes, but like, I didn't buy the game. And, looking back over all of the indies, all of the double A's, all of the triple A's, both first party Microsoft and otherwise that I've played through Game Pass, the value there has been so overwhelmingly in my favor that continuing this $20 a month is now me paying for my games. Like, Xbox players don't buy games. I am now paying for my games. This is me buying games because now I have this cost increase. And I think that hopefully that will then go back to, okay, this game did well, we should fund the next one. Or this game did well, give these people a pay bump, keep these games coming so that people stay employed and keep putting out good stuff. So I don't mind it because of how much I use it. But for those casual players, again, might not be worth it if you only play 2 to 3 games a year, and that's okay.
And I'm not the opposite end of the spectrum as Sam was saying, but like, I am the person, like, I buy lots of games on Xbox. I try to buy every JRPG that I'm interested in on Xbox to show that there's support from there. And Game Pass to me has always been like a supplement, right? Like a nice, like, oh, there's indies and double A's that I was interested in. I don't have to get those, and obviously the first party. So for me, that's like always just been an additive thing of being in the Xbox ecosystem. And there are still plenty of benefits to being in the Xbox ecosystem. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti Xbox now. I love Xbox. I'm gonna continue to love Xbox, but they're making it really hard to like look at this and not just see money going into executives' pockets, especially when I see the news now. I think it broke yesterday or something that they're cracking down on using rewards points for Game Pass now. Like, I don't know if it's just auto renew or in general, it's at least auto renew they're getting rid of, which is always the cheaper option for Microsoft rewards. So like, there's no doubt in my mind now that like Game Pass Ultimate is probably going up a few thousand extra points on Microsoft rewards. They've made it harder to get rewards. Like, they are doing everything they can now after their consumer friendly, like, hey, look how cheap this is, look at the value of this, like, we're good guy Xbox. They're now kind of penny pitching every single chance they get for the consumers here.
Yeah, I think this whole week has had the same energy of when Netflix started charging for logging into somebody's account outside of the home. Like, that's how this whole week has felt.
I don't want to jinx it, but I still have not been hit by that.
Really?
That's
and
crazy.
I don't know why. I still have a friend who has our login, and we share Netflix logins, and they still live in the same state, but they've never hit us up to be like, hey, we don't have access to Netflix anymore. And I'm like, that's cool.
Interesting.
Not gonna bring that up at all because I still got access to your Max. So
I canceled Netflix like 5 years ago at this point, when I think the prices were outrageous, and we wanted to watch something, so we got my girlfriend's sister's account and immediately hit with that message. I was like, guess we're not watching this. Like, they wouldn't even let us have 1 minute of it.
Yeah, because now I use my parents' Netflix still, and so I'll just send them $8 a month because I'm like, I'd rather give you $8 than have to pay for my own Netflix thing. But it's the same thing of like, hi, we have thousands of movies, and you haven't bought a DVD since 2012. So, anyways, we're going to charge you $23 a month now because you watch X hours, or you can watch X per month. You can watch however many movies you want, and so it really translates well to Game Pass of, hey, you haven't bought a game, Sam, since 2020, and that's an exaggeration, of course. I still buy stuff, but you've bought fewer games. We are now going to be charging you more because, hey, you're still playing games, and this is just how this works. And I'm like, well, you got me. Okay. I mean, I can't really argue with that logic, but financially, you've got to make money as a company, and I think that's just where we're at with Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. They're all going up, and it just keeps on going.
Yeah. And to Kev's point, you brought this up because I was just looking at the article that you had linked in our Discord about the auto renew. And it looks like there's a bit of an update on that. And I don't know if you'd gotten a chance to see that.
No,
So
I haven't.
the original story is that the Game Pass auto renew subscription was being discontinued. So if you'd been using your rewards points to fund your Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass subscriptions, that was going to be discontinued. It looks like there was a bit of an update today, actually, just this morning, that the changes to the auto redeem rewards options, which means that current discounted Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass Auto Renew subscriptions is going away on August 12th. You can still use your points on a new auto redeem system or explore the catalog for rewards. So it looks like they let's see, it looks like they're not doing away with the Microsoft reward points supporting auto renewals for Game Pass subscriptions. After all, according to the Microsoft rewards subreddit on Reddit, a new message to Xbox owners has some very different language than the message that was originally sent out.
So it sounds like they're gonna probably bump up the cost, but then you can pick a new auto renewal.
Yes. Yeah. So it looks like it's going from 6,750 points to 775 points, or 7,750 points to be able to do that. So overall, it looks like they are trying to address the new price increase across the board and not let things like the reward points slip by as kind of a loophole for this system. So it's going to take adjustment, just like how a lot of us were kind of upset about the initial like news about games, first party games going third party. And because of this, we'll just have to adjust. A lot of people will have to make that decision. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen anything for Game Pass Family. Like there still has not been like a family means for setting up multiple accounts.
Do you guys still think that's in the cards? Because I am fairly confident that they did their trial, they've done the math, and they're like, there's no way to make this work. We're just gonna scrap it. Kind of like they did the streaming stick, right? Keystone.
Yeah. I don't think it's in the cards anymore because I think we were talking in Discord, or Kevin, we were talking, one of the two. And if you're nickel and diming like they are right now, the way we described, where, you know, your rewards points, we're changing that whole system, $20, your extra $2 across the board, all that stuff. There's no way they're introducing a tier where you say, hey, you're in a college dorm right now. Guess what? 5 of you can get Game Pass for $25 a month, and you can all just send each other $5. You're not going to have that. If you're really trying to get that, they're going to look at that and say, okay, that's 5 people that could be paying $20 a month. We're doing that. Why would we make that value offer? Even if it would be great for us monetarily, that just doesn't make sense for the way that people, I think, would end up using it, because they would just be doing what I do with Netflix, where I send my mom $8. They would send their friend $5, and then you can play whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it with my Switch family plan, right? You're going to have 8 slots, and I understand Switch is a lot cheaper. It's like $35 a year for the Switch family plan. So I just send out emails to all my friends, and I'm like, I got open slots. Anybody looking for a free Switch online? You know?
Didn't you give away one for Extra Life?
Yeah, I did. And then everyone that won it on the wheel was like, I already have it, or I don't have a Switch. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, sounds good. No.
So yeah, if either of you guys want a free Switch, you know, let me know.
I just canceled my my expansion pass because
I don't have that. That's a ripoff.
Okay, yeah, you're not wrong, but still, like, I wanted to have access to those N64 games because Nintendo knows how to charge money and make people buy it. Except for you, apparently, you're not buying into that.
No.
So overall, I don't think that the family plan is something that they're still going to do. I think you're right, Kev. I think they did their tests on it. I think that there was a lot of logistics that they would have to then jump through to be able to get people who already have like accounts to be able to connect up into a family plan. And I think that, you know, people dropping and trying to migrate all the information and data that has to get transferred over for each person's account for a family plan would just be too difficult. So I think that's unfortunately, I think that's just a dead dream that we have at the moment, but who knows? We'll have to see how that goes. They may just do something where they open it up to a family plan where you can then have like kid accounts added. and those kid accounts will have like a gestation period. If they're close to 18, then they can, migrate it into a full-fledged account for themselves, or, what have you. But that at least allows them to have multiple streaming devices or consoles hooked up to that account, so that the kids don't have to sit there and worry, parents don't have to worry about like which one's the home account or the home box and which one's like the child ones. So we'll have to see. Sam, I don't know about you guys, but was there anything else that you guys wanted to jump into? I know you talked about a little bit about East Gamo getting a little price bump in his pay, which was kind of nuts, but at the same time, Ubisoft's actually been doing pretty good work as far as their games have been, as far as like the games go. So I don't know. Never a big fan of CEOs getting price bumps, but was there any stories that you guys had noticed this week that you wanted to bring up?
I think the only other thing to round out the Game Pass conversation is, can we talk about how bad the use of the word standard is as a tier? Like, does that just feel weird to
Standard
anybody else?
Should be the base tier, right? Like, that's
I
what
thought I liked
means.
core. I liked core. I think core is like a good nomenclature. And then I feel like it should have been Game Pass core. Then you've got Game Pass, like you just call it Game Pass, and that's your standard. And then Ultimate is the one that has the day one drops. Like, I think that makes sense. But then all of your commercials you've uploaded over the last 5 years are false advertising. So like, I get why there's a problem there. Yeah. But like, oh God, what a conundrum. And then they're like, you know what? It's the normal one. We're going to call it standard. I hated it.
Silken in XCP's Discord had something that I thought was actually funny and actually made better sense than most of the other like options that we've seen in here, where he said there's Game Pass Core, which is Game Pass Day Never. There's Game Pass Standard, which is Game Pass Someday. And then there's Game Pass Ultimate, which is Game Pass Day One. And I was cracking up at that when I was reading through it. I think that they really should have just gone and done something like basic, normal, and then ultimate or something. Like have the I don't even know how it would like.
They should have just not gotten rid of Xbox Live. It should be Xbox Live Gold, Game Pass Standard, Game Pass Ultimate, or Game Pass Core if you don't want the word standard. Like, there should be 2 Game Passes.
It's just, I mean, the way that we're all talking about it right now, like clearly I'm imagining a giant boardroom meeting with like every big Xbox executive, and they've all just got, they're like the Charlie Day, like Always Sunny thing of like, okay, this is Game Pass, then you've got Core, but that's not standard, and then you've got Ultimate.
I like to think they took darts and like a bunch of words, and they're like...
Yeah, I keep imagining there's just like some poor intern who has to give this presentation to all the C-level execs, and he's just like, sweat is just dripping down his face as he's got the little pointer, like, and he's just shaking as he's trying not to get fired. He's like, it's Core, and then Standard, and then Ultimate,
and Console if you still have it.
Yeah. Or alternatively, the Mad Men meme of like standard, like he's like really making a point with it, like, this is the one that's really going to bring him in.
Yeah. Do we think that they are ever going to have good marketing around this? Like, do we think that Kev, very positive on this.
If you want to listen, it's hard. I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but like Hellblade 2's numbers came out right this week.
I missed that.
Okay.
What did they come out with?
I think it was like 37th overall for the month of May in sales, 21 on Xbox, and then it was the 12th most engaged on Game Pass for May, which not great numbers. But again, if you're looking at marketing, I don't think there's any more of a prime example of a failure to market than Hellblade 2.
You're not wrong about that. Like, even people, like, I thought that they were going to have like a strong push those last like 3 weeks. And like Aaron Greenberg's like, we're going to really ramp up the marketing on this, guys. Just wait. And true to form, just like most of Aaron's tweets, it's just like kind of lackluster. It just never quite hits the way I think that we always expected to. So that's, part of me has to feel like, one, it was marketing, and two, it's a sequel. So just like with Spider-Man 2, it's always harder to get the people outside of the incumbents to jump into a game like that, because they're always, I mean, myself included, I still haven't finished Hellblade 1. I'm not going to jump into Hellblade 2 until I actually finish Hellblade 1. So I'm already like part of the problem here, where I'm not willing to jump into a sequel without having finished the first game.
Yeah, we kind of talked about Hellblade 2. The way that I see it as well is that I think that if you overmarket it, then people are going to be jumping in, paying $50, and then they'll say, this isn't the game that I thought that it would be, because it's largely a walking simulator with what I think is really good combat, but it's a whole lot of like watching, taking in, thinking, deep thought, psychological stuff. And for people that are seeing a trailer, like if you had done a trailer during a soccer game or something, or like one of the big marketing pushes they would typically do, people are going to say, oh, that looks sick. One of the best looking games I've ever played. Then they're going to dive in and be like, oh, I thought this was God of War. This isn't God of War. And I think that's a difficult thing to set the expectation for, because you want to give them the recognition that they deserve, because Ninja Theory did a great job with this game. But you've also got to recognize that it's not going to be a game that the majority of people are going to really sit down and play and be like, oh, this is like game of the year material, because they're not into that kind of game. Like, I get it. I like that game. I think it's a great game, but it's not going to be putting it up there with like your Call of Duty players, your mainstream audience. It's so hard to market.
Do we think that they're going to actually like succeed with Call of Duty? Do you guys think that? Because I mean, the playbook's there, right? Like, we've seen what PlayStation can do with marketing when it comes to Call of Duty. All they would have to do is just copy a lot of what that is to try and engage with those Call of Duty fans and get people attached to Game Pass. Do you guys have any confidence that they'll be able to market Call of Duty Black Ops 6 well?
I think we'll know closer to launch of the game, because I assume August, September, certainly they should be full swing for marketing for that game. But I just look at like what competitors do. Like, I see Switch commercials constantly. I can't go to the movies without Keenan Thompson sitting down with his daughter playing Switch. I got to watch a 5-minute ad of him playing the Switch in the movies, and I'm like, I never see Xbox ads in those places. I've seen PlayStation ads at the movie. You just don't see Xbox out there actually talking to anyone. Like, who are you marketing to? Like Reddit? I see some Reddit ads every once in a while. I see some YouTube ads occasionally, but is that just the algorithm being like, you like Xbox? Like, here's some ads for your interests. It's like, how are you supposed to appeal to people if they don't know you exist anymore?
Yeah. And then in 2023, during the game showcase, I did the flip side, and I went to an Xbox ad at the movies. I went to one of the to the little local events they had to watch the showcase, which was super cool. But no, I think it's a really good point. I think that it's split into three things. Number one, are they going to market it on Xbox channels? And how do you market Call of Duty, which is like the behemoth, while also giving some oxygen to Avowed and Indiana Jones and whatever other kind of third-party indie deals that you've got? I mean, imagine a Hollow Knight Silksong launching this holiday season, and it's around October. Dude, how do you pick between, like, we know we need to market Call of Duty, but also people that are following Xbox would want to see Hollow Knight Silksong? Like, that's been a Game Pass beat for 5 years now or something. So like there's that element, and then there's the Call of Duty channels element, which I think kind of runs itself. And then there's that kind of like background beat that I think kind of also runs itself, of changing the color palette from PlayStation Blue to Xbox Green, and then just kind of letting the subliminal marketing do its thing over time. But I think that when we're looking at the main channels, that's where it's going to be a really hard thing, because they own so much and there are so many things they're doing. To give one thing the attention that it needs for us to be satiated by it is almost impossible because of how much you've got on the content calendar.
Yeah.
Now, as we're talking about marketing for Black Ops 6 specifically, do you think it benefits Xbox? And I think this is obvious, yes, but I want to know if you guys think this is egregious. When in old Call of Duty games, like basically everyone's that have a significant population still, when you boot those up from like September onward, should you not see a splash screen that says Call of Duty Black Ops 6, play it on Game Pass? Like, get your current player base to know where they can get this. Like, throw it in their face for a while.
Yeah, I think you should. I think that it's a question of like, is that FTC legal on PlayStation? Like, how do
That's
you?
what I don't know. Can they even do that on a, like, if I boot up Cold War on my PS5 and see that splash screen, is that going to get them in trouble?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels intrusive, to be honest. Like we already have people that are like crying about the fact that, and not to downplay like what they're saying. I'm not trying to make light of what their issue is, but to me at least it feels like they're crying about the fact that there's full screen first party ads on their console when it gets booted up. Kev, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to call anyone out on that specifically, but I mean, that already feels like a bridge too far for a lot of Xbox fans. I can't imagine them getting any goodwill from people being reminded that they're playing an older version, like getting an ad being like, "Hey, we want you to spend more money for the new version of Call of Duty," when they are actively booting up the version that they want to play. I feel like that feels like that might not come across the way that the advertising aspect of it would hope. They're not going to look at that and be like, oh, I didn't know there was a new Call of Duty. I've been playing this for the last 10 years. They made a new one and then decide that they want to go spend the $70 to $100 on the new version.
Yeah, in my mind, it was more like they see the $20 and they're like, what? I can play it for $20?
That's a fair point. That's a heck of a lot better of a marketing perspective than be like, hey, you can buy it now for $70 or you can subscribe to Game Pass for $20 and get access to it right now.
Yeah. I know EA does that. Like when the new EAFC, sorry, the FIFA is a 2K thing now, I believe. When the new EAFC comes out, like for weeks leading up to launch, every time I log in, there will be a splash screen asking me to pre-order the Ultimate Edition to get like early access and like all this benefits. And I'm like, let me smash the B button faster, please.
Yeah, I know that back in the day, I don't know if they still do it now, but the older Call of Duty games I've been going back to record some stuff, and it's almost like a time capsule because you'll see where, like in Modern Warfare 3, they were advertising for, I guess, what would have been Black Ops. I guess maybe Black Ops 1, trying to think of much.
Straight Black
Ops 2. So, either way, in the original Modern Warfare 3, they were advertising what the following years would have been. And I think they had like a 2-year time frame they did that, but it wasn't intrusive. It was just like your little PSA bottom right corner thing on the multiplayer menu. Yeah. And I think if Microsoft were to do that again, which they very well could already. I haven't played Call of Duty on a regular basis, so I don't know what's going on in there. But on the bottom right, if they said, hey, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is coming October, whatever day it's going to be coming out, play it day one in Game Pass, plain text in like, just a little reminder, a little one-liner. And then maybe instead of just having a Black Ops 6 logo with the dude with the 2 guns like they've had for every Black Ops since the beginning of time, put like the Game Pass little triangle on the bottom right and just say that it's there. Not obtrusive, not giant splash screen or anything that's like arming its way into your game session, but just something that's there as a constant reminder that it's happening. I don't think that's bad. I think that's okay.
I know Destiny does that. Destiny has like their map, and whenever there's a new expansion, there's always like a new little world or something that is like the destination for the new part of the expansion. They'll always have like a little thing there that says like, hey, this is where the new stuff's going to be. You can pre-order it here. It'll take you to the store. And that's about as intrusive as it is. I want to say that they did stuff like that for like Modern Warfare 2 when Modern Warfare 3 was coming out. And they just had like a little banner at the top that was like, hey, you can pre-order the game now to get access to it and jump in. So I know a lot of people probably not, huge fans of Call of Duty. A lot of people probably just like whatever, it's just another COD game kind of thing. And it's not really going to impact them. Be very curious to find out if any of the folks that feel that way decide to jump into COD when it's just part of the actual subscription and see if there's anything there that they actually enjoy. I personally still really love the zombies mode. There's something cathartic about it's like a rec room. You just go smash stuff.
Yeah.
Like zombies, that's what zombies is for me. Zombies is my decompression. Jump in, shoot a bunch of things that aren't people, that I don't have to worry about their feelings. I don't have to think about like how good they are compared to me, or have to think about that. It's just like go mow down a bunch of zombies without having to worry about timers or like horde waves or anything like that. It's just like mindless fun.
Yeah.
That being said, I know there's a lot of fun to be had outside of COD, so I'm curious to hear what you guys have been playing. So I wanted to kick it off to Kev and see what you've been playing, what you've been jumping into, what's kind of been keeping your attention before the next big launch.
Yeah, I already chatted about Concord, the beta. I'll probably play a little more of that. If you guys want to party up, let me know if it's open on PC. But I think the open beta is next weekend if you can't get in this weekend. So other than that, I have rolled credits on The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, something both of you obviously are really into JRPG. Yeah, JRPG, the 13th one in the series.
Logan is me every week. Like
Yeah, I
that's
know.
like I'll be like, Kev, what you been playing? And then he'll just rattle off a list of adjectives or something, and I'm like,
Words.
it sounds great.
Yeah. No, really phenomenal JRPG though. If you're interested in that kind of game, it blends action combat with turn-based. You can switch from action into a turn-based arena at will. So kind of evolving the turn-based formula, if you will, but keeps the classic storytelling, world building, and amazing characters that the Trail series is known for. Other than that, nothing at the moment. Oh well, I can talk about Lifeless Moon because my review is officially out for it. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but this is an indie game from the creators of Lifeless Planet, which Sam told me about. I didn't know that. I thought this was an original game. This is an indie I was given a code for, so take whatever you will with that, but I really enjoyed this game as well. It's only about 2.5 to 3 hours long, depending on like if you want to explore the entirety of the planet, find all the secrets in it. But essentially, it's like a classic sci-fi story with some horror elements mixed in. So you like get sucked into like some sort of a singularity, end up on a planet, and you're like walking around. Is there anything on here? Suddenly you find like a town, and this all happens within the first 5 minutes. So this isn't spoilers, but the town, you're like, why is there a town on the moon? And then you just have to keep digging deeper into the mystery, find out like where all the people went, what happened to the civilization here. It's a really fun time, light action or light adventure puzzle game, not action, adventure puzzle game. So if you're into those kind of games, pretty cheap. I think it's like $12. So I do recommend that.
Is this 2D or 3D?
It's 3D.
Okay. Not too many indie games that do 3D.
Yeah, it's a Unity based game. So it looks a little janky. I will say that like you'll feel it in the movement. Like it almost feels like it's stuck on like a 4-axis type move. Like you can go straight and sideways. So it's a little clunky, but you don't really need that. Like most of the time, you're just going to be going straight ahead and moving the camera.
Interesting. I'm curious. You mentioned the was it Trials or the Trails JRPG. 13 games in. What is the story even like with that?
So they've divided it into arcs. So Sky 1 through 3 is the first arc. Yeah. Then you have the Crossbell duology. Then you have Cold Steel 1 through 4. Then you have Reverie, and now you have Daybreak 1 and 2 is coming next year. And then the third game in that is called Kai no Kaseki O Farewells Maria, which I'm sure will get a much better English title. Don't worry.
Do you mean just cast a spell on me? Is that what just happened?
Essentially, yeah.
He's summoning his demonic girlfriend. Leave him alone.
So that'll be this arc, and they all tie into each other, like overarching villains and reoccurring characters popping up. But they're like, "Oh, I met you 10 games ago, and now you're just suddenly popping up here. But you're like, you changed, you've grown. Let's find out what's been going on with you." It's just a really great story. It's like the MCU of JRPGs, okay?
I love that is a thing that I'm just completely oblivious to, because it makes me feel a little more like sound in my principles about like how I'm like, no, I know certain video games, and then there's just games that I'm just like, I have no idea. I'm glad that there's a market out there, man, because someone has a passion for it. It may not be me, but boy howdy, does it mean everything to this group of people. Even Clint in chat even jumping in and said, I'm starting to dip into the Trails of Daybreak. So
Let's go,
there's
Clint.
very much a thriving JRPG group of fans in XEP that I'm so glad. I know Silken is probably, familiar with this as well too. I, like Sam, am very much not in the JRPG category. So Sam, what have you been playing that I would understand?
I have, yeah. I mean, before I get into my thing, whenever I poke fun at Kevin or anybody else, obviously everybody's got their thing. I'm not yucking anybody's yum here. Like, it's all just jokes. But on my side, I rolled credits on Lords of the Fallen. I know that Luke is playing that as well. And so I finally finished that after, I think, a little over 50 hours. It was like 58 hours, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, it is quite an interesting game because I like the world design. There are some performance issues still late game that they haven't ironed out. I think that people just don't talk about them as much because how many people are getting to that point in the game after, like, Shadow of the Erdtree came out.
Man.
It's like one of those things where I just don't know people are making it that far.
Yeah.
But still a fun game. It is kind of artificially hard. Like, instead of enemies just getting more difficult, they're just like, hey, what if we made them like a little bit harder? And then there were 6 of them. And it's just kind of like cheesing in that way.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, had a good time with it. Would definitely recommend if you don't want to play like Elden Ring or Erdtree and you're looking for a Souls like on Game Pass. It's a great pickup there. After that, I always play a Souls game and then I need like a palate cleanser. It's kind of like I've got like Souls PTSD after a while. Like I finished the Wolong DLC and I'm like, oh man, I need some like Hello Kitty Island adventure or something. So I rolled into the Ancient Gods Part 1 and Part 2 DLCs as well. And so I went and did a little ripping and tearing in Doom, and they're like 3 or 4 hours a piece. Nothing crazy. I got them both
about that.
Yeah, I got them both for $10 in like this little bundle. So it was like a great deal to check that out. And I went back and finished that up just to kind of like, I guess, bridge the gap between now and the Dark Ages. I might go back and do some trials and like find all of the little hidden things, but Doom Eternal is always a good time. It's almost like a rhythm game at certain points where you just like know what you need to get and how to get it. So I really had a good time. And now I am rolling into Dead Island 2. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of build my life around Game Pass, like the way that I play stuff. So Dead Island 2 is the next one up on the roster, and I'm enjoying it. Combat, very rudimentary, but like the story is compelling, and I like the world and the way you can kind of use the environment. So I'm having fun.
How deep into Dead Island 2 are you right now?
I'm about, I would say 2 to 3 hours in. So like I'm past I got the weapon crafting bench, and I'm kind of like now getting to where there's like side quests where you can help the guy that is like shooting stuff up on a balcony. And I'm kind of getting into the story. I'm at I'm right past the hotel. I just got to the hotel. So I'm very, very early in, but I'm just kind of taking my time with it.
I may DM you about that because I genuinely, like, funny enough, I've been on this weird, because I've been going through a weird journey in life, midlife crisis. Hi, that's me. So I'm getting back to my roots as like a person. So I'm going back to my horror movies. And the last couple of days, I started to watch House of a Thousand Corpses, and I went back to Dawn of the Dead, and I was like, and I was watching Dawn of the Dead, and I was like, I never got to go play Dead Island 2. I never, like, I just, it was on the docket and it just slipped through the fingers, and I never went to actually go and play that. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, I think the game that I might jump back into, because I genuinely have not been playing games at all. Like Heroes of the Storm has been the one game that I jump into. I think I've played a little bit of First Descendant, and that is it. I've been going out to the gym. I've been, like talking to people, hanging out with friends, and just not doing games at all. And it's weird. And I'm starting to get back into the game mode now. And I think Dead Island 2 might be the thing that actually like pulls me back in, because I've been watching a lot of horror movies. I've been getting into that and stuff. And now I'm like, I want to play that. So I might see if you'd be up for doing some co-op for that.
Yeah.
And spend some time, because it's one of those, like, I think Dead Island 2 is better with people. Everyone that I've seen play it has had more fun when they've done it co-op. And if that's
I didn't know it had co-op.
Oh yeah,
that's a much bigger plus for me.
Yeah, and it's in watching people like drop kick zombies back and forth into stuff as friends, and just like accidentally kicking your friend into the electrified water is it's hilarious. The shenanigans that can happen in there. So that is one that I've been sitting here thinking about this week. Like, I should really go back and jump into Dead Island 2. I have all this Twitch DLC that I made sure that I watched to get all the skins and stuff, all the weapons and whatnot when it first came out. And I just haven't done anything with it. And I think I want to jump back into that. And I think that's one of those, like, it should be fun to actually check out and stuff. So
yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, the gameplay is like very basic, like high level stuff where I'm really just smashing the right trigger and just punching stuff with like my Wolverine claws. But again, it's a good kind of like in between palate cleanser kind of thing. And I love the writing, and I chose Jacob as my main character that I'm playing through as. And it almost feels like I'm in like a zombie apocalypse with Billy Butcher from The Boys. Like that's the kind of writing and like the energy that he brings. And so I'm really enjoying that because I'm watching The Boys and I'm kind of like already in that mindset. So it's just a fun, campy, it's kind of like Dead Rising 2 in a lot of ways as well. But I really enjoy it. So yeah, hit me up. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely do that then. I can't think if there's anything else that we want to jump into. That's if honestly, like those are the main topics that I wanted to jump into, just to kind of let folks know kind of our thoughts. I know if you guys want Luke's opinion, he did a Let's Talk earlier this week on Tuesday that he kind of dove into the price changes and all that stuff. So definitely, if you want his opinion because he's not here this weekend, definitely go back to that. Definitely make sure that you guys are checking out Project X Talk as well to hear like the initial first impressions of you guys and what's been going on as far as like the changes, because I that was kind of like my comfort food last night. Like I was sitting there last night, my friends were out, they're like, why aren't you coming to hang out with us? You know, we got a lot of food, we're going to be watching movies and stuff like that. And I'm like, I got to be responsible. I have to do the show notes, I got to get the thumbnails, I got to do all this stuff for Luke because he's gone and I'm going to be gone next week, so I have to be responsible. And last night it was like, did all the notes, got all that knocked out that I wanted to work on, and I just sat there listening to you guys talk to me while I was playing Heroes of the Storm, and I was just like, this is just relaxing.
While he was going to bed, we whisked him off.
Yeah, you guys were my cool down as far as like the night goes. I was just like, oh, this is a good time. I could listen to you guys talk all day. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Was there anything that you guys wanted to touch base on, or anything you guys wanted to shout out as we head out?
No, I just want to say again, thanks for the invite, Logan. I'll always, love having you on Project X Talk. Love coming over here to XEP, doing our little crossover episodes. I don't think I've ever been on the show when Luke is in here. This was new, I think. So, again, thank you so much. I do feel like our shows are kind of sister shows in a way, obviously, and a lot of the community here is so supportive of us, me and Sam over at Project X Talk too. So, shout out everyone in the community. Shout out you guys.
Yeah, I would just echo that too. Just being able to be on here having conversations like the community episodes XCP does, and the way that we've all kind of built this awesome camaraderie. Like I always see Silkenet popping up in like every timeline I've got in my little disparate groups. And I know a ton of people are like that as well. So it's just great to be a part of this whole thing and to enjoy games outside of the angry list of Twitter people. Like we have a nice community over here of like people that are actually having thoughtful, intellectual, deep, thoughtful conversations. So it's really nice.
And I see Nissa in the chat asking, what's the link to their channel? I will drop that for you right now.
I've even got the episode that you guys just did this week. So definitely make sure to go listen to that, because it was a really good conversation. And part of me was like, oh, we're just going to rehash exactly what they said like a couple days ago. But I was like, I don't care. I still like talking to you guys just about stuff in general. So definitely make sure you head over to that link, go watch their episode, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Make sure that you guys stay up to date with Project X Talk, because I love listening to you guys as well. When I'm not listening to Cast Co-op or Trophy Room and stuff, those are like the three shows that I kind of listen to on a regular basis. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me. I always love chatting with you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me. Apologies to chat for screwing up the stream early on. If you're not here earlier, then don't worry about it. Everything worked normal. I definitely did everything correctly. Luke will be back with the professionalism and the know-how next week. I won't be here. I'm going to be out in Ohio. There's a Sea of Thieves festival going on in Ohio next weekend that I'm going to be part of, as far as like the panels and trivia and all that jazz. So I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to have a good time. And just I'll probably be back the week after that. So I'm going to be taking my my Logitech G Cloud and seeing just how much I can stream and play on the way there and what's going on. So, but thank you to everyone for hanging out, spending time with us, and we will all see you next week.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.